Galuchi-1810. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos y pásenla bien amigos y amigas. Recuerda darle a clic al botón seguir, eso me ayuda. Have a good time friend and remember to click the follow button, that helps me.
One winter night in a big forest of pine trees, two woodcutters were walking home. It was very, very cold, and there was snow on the ground. The trees were cold, the birds were cold, and the animals were cold. The rabbits stayed in their rabbit holes, and the squirrels stayed in the trees. But the two woodcutters continued their journey. They prayed to
Hola,
Ma,
hola,
the protector of travelers.
hola, saludos.
Finally, they saw
Hola.
the lights of their little village in the distance. They were very happy and laughed. The earth now seemed like a flower of silver, and the moon seemed like a flower of gold. But soon they became sad again. Why were we so happy? Asked one woodcutter. Life is for rich people, not poor people like us. It is better if we
Con
die
este.
in the snow, or if a wild animal eats us. Suddenly, something very strange happened. A very bright and beautiful star fell from the sky into the snow. Look, said one of the woodcutters to his friend. Perhaps we will find a pot of gold. Let's go and see. When they arrived, they found a thing of gold on the white snow. But it wasn't the treasure they wanted. It was a golden cloak with golden stars on it. They opened the cloak, and inside they saw a little baby sleeping. Round the baby's neck was a chain. This is not good, said one of them. Let's leave the baby here. We have too many children and not enough money to buy food. Here alone, said the other woodcutter. He will surely die. I will take him home with me. We have many children and not enough food, but my wife will look after him. And the good woodcutter took the baby in his arms and continued his journey home. When they arrived at their village, the first woodcutter said, You have the child, so you must give me the cloak of gold. But his friend answered, No, this cloak is not yours or mine. It's the baby's cloak. It must stay with him. The woodcutter's wife was very happy to see her husband. She put her arms round him and kissed him. I found something in the forest, and I brought it home for you, he said.
Oh, good. What is it? We are very poor and we need many things.
But she was very angry when she saw the baby.
We have too many children already and not enough money to buy food. I don't want another child,
she said. But then she looked at the baby, and her heart was full of pity. He is a star child, said her husband. We must love him. So the woman put the baby in a little bed to sleep. She put the cloak and the chain into a chest.
Yes, we will love him,
she answered. Part 2. The Mother. The Star Child lived with the woodcutter and his family, but he was very different from them. Every year the Star Child became more beautiful. His skin was white like ivory. His hair was gold like the daffodils. His lips were like the petals of a red flower, and his eyes were blue like the violets near a river. The other people in the village had black hair and black eyes, and they watched the Star Child in wonder. The Star Child was very beautiful, but very cruel, arrogant, and selfish. He laughed at the other children in the village and said,
Your parents are poor, but I am noble. I come from a star.
he had no pity for poor people. He laughed at ugly people and ill people. He hurt animals, and he laughed when they suffered. He was very vain and loved his beauty. In summer, he often went to the well in the priest's orchard.
No le di a ese que
and
está
looked at the
descuidado.
reflection of his face in the water.
El que te empedará a mí.
He was happy. The woodcutter and his wife treated the boy well, but they were very sad. They often said to him,
we were good to you. We felt pity for you.
Why are you so cruel? Why do you act in this way? The priest was very worried and said to him, You must respect him. Even
Como me
if
cuesta
he
darle así de
is
costado.
your brother, why do you cause pain? But the Star Child didn't listen. He
Un
continued
avión
to
ya.
hurt animals and laugh at the problems of other people. The other children followed him because he was beautiful and could dance and make music. They followed his orders. He was their leader, and they became cruel and hard like him. One day, a poor beggar woman arrived in the village. Her clothes were very old and torn, and she had no shoes on her feet. She was very tired and sat under a tree to rest. The Star Child saw her and said to his friends,
Ugh, look at that ugly woman. We don't want her here.
and they started to throw stones at the poor woman. She was terrified, but she didn't stop looking at the Star Child. What are you doing? Shouted the woodcutter when he saw this. Stop immediately! Why do you have no pity for this poor woman?
I will not listen to you. You are not my father.
Replied the Star Child. This is true, but when I found you in the forest, I had pity
Vamos
for
perdiendo,
you.
señor. Vamos
The
perdiendo.
old woman was listening, and when she heard these words, she screamed and fainted. The woodcutter carried her into his house, and his wife put meat and drink on the table for her. But she did not eat or drink.
Vamos,
She asked,
vamos, vamos,
Did
vamos,
this
vamos.
child come from the forest? Did he have a gold cloak with stars on it? Did this happen about 10 years ago?
The woodcutter was very surprised. Yes, he replied.
And did he have an amber chain round his neck?
Yes, he did, said the woodcutter. Come with me, and I will show you the cloak and the chain. The woman looked at these things and started to cry with joy.
Oh, he is my little son. I am his mother.
She said.
I lost him in the forest 10 years ago, and I looked all over the world for him. Now I have him again.
The woodcutter was very surprised and called the boy. Come into the house, and you will find your mother. The star child was very happy and ran in. But when he saw her, he said,
Where is my mother? I can see no one. Only a horrible beggar woman.
I
Listo.
am your mother.
she said.
You are mad. I'm not
Oh.
your son. You are dressed in old clothes. You are a beggar woman. And I am a star child.
But I recognized you when I saw you, and I recognized your cloak of gold and your chain of amber. Robbers stole you from me. Come to me, my son. Your love is very important for me.
She opened her arms to
Van a
him,
reventar.
but he was very angry and closed the doors of his heart to her. The woman cried.
Oh, oh, kiss me before I go, because I traveled all over the world, and I suffered much to find you.
Never. You are very ugly. I prefer to kiss a toad or a snake.
The woman stood up and went out of the house. She was crying very much.
Oh,
The star child was very happy when she went. He then went to play with his friends. Part 3. The Punishment.
Adiós.
The star child went to his friends, but when they saw him, they laughed at him. We don't want to play with you now because you're ugly, they said.
Viene por acá uno. Listo.
Things to me.
He thought. He went to the well to
Estoy
look at his
rodeado.
reflection. He was different now. He had a face like a toad and skin like a snake. Then the star child understood and started to cry.
Oh, this is my punishment.
He said,
I am very cruel, and my
Listo.
mother
Tiene que disparar
suffered.
aquel.
Now, I must find her and say sorry.
Dispara aquel
the
azote.
woodcutter's little daughter said to him,
it's not important if you
Ah, qué vaina. Dispara mi hubiese sido efectivo.
No, this is my punishment.
he replied.
I treated my mother very badly,
Listo, ganamos.
and now I must find her.
He ran into the forest, calling,
Mother! Mother! I'm sorry. Please come back.
all day he called, but nobody answered. When night came, he slept on a bed of leaves. But when the animals saw him, they ran away. They knew that he was a cruel boy. He said to the mob,
You can go under the ground. Tell me if my mother is there.
I don't know if your mother is there. I cannot see because you hurt my eyes, replied the mole. He said to a little bird,
You can fly over the trees. Tell me if you can see my mother.
I don't know if your mother is there. I cannot fly because you hurt my wings.
replied the bird. He saw a little squirrel and asked,
Where is my mother?
I don't know, replied the squirrel. You killed my mother. Do you want to kill your mother too? The star child heard all these things, and he cried
Tengo un
and
poquito más para
prayed to
este.
God to forgive him. He travelled to many different villages to find his mother, and the children of these villages laughed at him and threw stones at him. Nobody had pity for the star child. Part 4. 3 Pieces of Gold. For 3 years, the star child walked around the world, but he didn't find his mother. One day he arrived at the gates of a city near a river with a big wall around it. The soldiers there stopped him. What are you doing here? They asked.
I'm looking for my mother.
He said,
Please let me pass. Perhaps she is in this city.
Who is your mother, and why are you looking for her? Asked another soldier.
She is a poor beggar like me, and I was very cruel to her. Now I want her pardon.
But the soldiers laughed. You are very ugly. No mother loves an ugly child. She will not be happy to see you. Come with us. We will sell you to be a slave. They sold the star child to an old man for the price of a cup of sweet wine. This old man was a magician from Libya. The magician took the boy to a dark prison and gave him a piece of old bread and some dirty water. The next day he said, Now you must go into the forest. In the forest there are 3 pieces of gold. One is of white gold, one is of yellow gold, and the other is of red gold. You are my slave, and if you do not bring me the piece of white gold, I will beat you 100 times. So the star child went to the forest to look for the white gold, but he found only many thorns and dangerous flies. He could not find the white gold anywhere. When the sun started to disappear, the boy started to cry. He knew that the magician wanted to beat him. Suddenly, he heard a cry of pain and saw a little hare in a trap. He forgot his problems. He felt pity for the hare and opened the trap. Thank you. You are very kind, said the hare. Thanks to you, I have my freedom. What can I give you?
I must find a piece of white gold for the magician. If I don't take it to him, he will beat me.
I will help you, said the hare. I know where to find the white gold. He took the star child to a tree, and in the tree he found the gold. The star child was very happy and thanked the hare. He returned to the city, but at the city gate he saw an old man. This old man was very ill and very poor. Give me some money! If you don't give me some money, I will die of hunger! Shouted the old man. The star child felt pity for the old man, but he only had the piece of white gold for the magician.
The old man needs the money more than me,
Thought the star child, and gave him the gold. The magician was very angry when he saw that the star child didn't have the gold, and he beat the boy. He put him in prison with no food and no water. The next day the magician said, Today you must return to the forest and find the piece of yellow gold. If you do not do this, I will beat you 300 times. The boy went into the forest and looked for the gold. He looked all day long, but he could not find it. Finally, he sat under a tree and started to cry. The hare heard him and asked, "Why are you crying?"
I must find a piece of yellow gold. If I don't find it, the magician will beat me.
"Follow me, I will show you the yellow gold," said the hare. And he took the Star Child to a pool of water. At the bottom of the pool, he found the piece of yellow gold. The Star Child returned to the city, but at the city gate he saw the old man again. "Give me some money! If you don't give me money, I will die of hunger!" he shouted. The Star Child felt pity for the old man and gave him the gold. The magician was very angry. "What? No gold? No gold, no food, and no water!" He beat the Star Child and put chains on him and put him in prison again. The next day, the magician said, "Today you must return to the forest and find the piece of red gold. If you find it, you will be free. If you do not find it, I will kill you." The boy went into the forest, and all day long he looked for the gold, but he could not find it. In the evening he sat under a tree and started to cry. The hare heard him and asked, "Why are you crying?" The Star Child explained everything, and again the hare helped him. This time he found the gold in a cave near the tree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Said the boy, and he ran back to the city. At the city gate, he saw the old man. "Give me some money! If you don't give me money, I will die!" he shouted. The Star Child felt pity for the old man and gave him the gold.
You need it more than me,
he said. But he was very sad, and his heart was very heavy.
The magician will kill me,
he thought. But when he passed the guards at the city gate, they bowed to him and said, "Look at our beautiful lord." The Star Child walked through the city, and more people followed him. They all said, "He is the most beautiful boy in the world." But the Star Child was very sad.
they are laughing at me.
He thought. He walked for a long time and finally arrived in a big square where there was a king's palace. The people said, "You are our lord, the son of our king."
I'm not a king's son. I am the son of a poor beggar woman. Why do you say that I'm beautiful? I know I am very ugly.
"Why do you say that you are ugly? Look," said a soldier. The Star Child looked into the soldier's shield. The shield like a mirror. There he saw his face, and saw that his face was beautiful like before. "There is a prophecy," said the people, "that on this day our king will come. You are our king. Take this crown and this scepter. Govern us with justice and with mercy."
No, I'm a bad boy.
He replied.
I must find my mother. I cannot accept the crown and the scepter.
He turned toward the city gate. In the crowd, he saw his mother, the beggar. Then, next to her, he saw the old man from the city gate. He ran to the woman, knelt in front of her.
Apa yang mau ya?
Mother,
Que perdimos ya.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Once I gave you my hatred. Please give me your love now.
But the woman didn't speak. The Star Child spoke to the old man.
Please, I helped you 3 times. Please tell my mother to speak to me.
But the old man didn't speak. The Star Child started to cry.
Please forgive me, Mother. Please forgive me.
The woman put her hand on the boy's head and said,
Stand up.
The old man put his hand on the boy's head too. When the Star Child stood up, he saw that the beggar woman was a queen, and the old man was a king. The queen said to him,
This is your father. You helped him 3 times.
and the king said to him, This is your mother. You washed her feet with your tears. The boy hugged them and kissed them both. They took him to the palace, and they put a crown on his head and a scepter in his hand. He was a very good king, and showed justice and mercy to everyone. He sent gifts to the woodcutter and his family. He helped poor people. He was kind to the animals and birds, and there was peace in all the land. Unfortunately, he died after 3 years because he suffered a lot in his life, and the next king was a cruel king.
The Moon. First published in 1893.
Part 1. From San Francisco to London. When I was 27 years old, I worked in an office in San Francisco. I did my job well, and my future was promising. I was alone in the world, and I was happy. On Saturday afternoons, I didn't work. I sailed my little sailboat on San Francisco Bay. One Saturday afternoon, I sailed out too far. The strong afternoon wind pushed my sailboat out of the bay and into the Pacific Ocean. That night, when I had lost all hope, a small British brig saw me and took me on board. The brig was sailing to London. The voyage was long and stormy. I worked as a sailor to pay for my trip. When I arrived in London, my clothes were old and dirty. I had only $1 in my pocket. With this dollar, I ate and slept for the first 24 hours. During the next 24 hours, I didn't eat and I didn't sleep. At about 10 o'clock the following morning, I went to Portland Place. I saw a child walking past, holding a big pear. The child ate one small piece and then threw the pear onto the street. I stopped and looked at it. I was very hungry and I really wanted that pear. But every time I tried to get it, someone passed by and looked at me. I quickly turned in the other direction and waited for the person to pass by. I tried again and again to get that pear, but the same thing happened. I was desperate. I decided to get the pear, and not to worry about the people who saw me. At that moment, a gentleman opened a window behind me and said,
"Come in here, please."
A well-dressed servant opened the door. He took me to a beautiful room. Here, two old gentlemen were sitting and discussing something important. Their breakfast was still on the table. I was very hungry, and I stared at their breakfast. I want to tell the reader that the two gentlemen had made a bet several days before. I knew nothing about the bet until later. Let me tell you what happened. Part 2. An unusual bet. The two old gentlemen were brothers. For several days they argued about a very strange subject. They decided to end their argument with a bet, as the English usually do. The following was the subject of the bet. The Bank of England issued 2 banknotes of £1 million each for a public transaction with a foreign country. England used one banknote, and the other remained in the bank. At this point, Brother A said to Brother B,
If an honest and intelligent stranger arrives in London without a friend and without money, except for the £1 million banknote, he will starve to death.
Brother B answered,
No, I don't agree.
Brother A said,
If he goes to the bank or anywhere else to change this big note, the police will put him in prison. Everyone will think he stole it.
They continued arguing for days until Brother B said,
I'll bet £20,000 that the stranger will live for 30 days with the banknote and not go to prison.
Brother A accepted the bet. He went to the bank and bought the £1 million banknote. After, he returned home and prepared a letter. Then the two brothers sat by the window and waited for the right man for the bet. They saw a lot of honest faces go by, but they were not intelligent enough. Several faces were intelligent, but they were not honest. A lot of faces were honest and intelligent, but they were not poor enough. Other faces were honest, intelligent, and poor, but they were not strangers. When they saw me from the window, they thought I was the right man. They asked me questions, and soon they knew my story. Finally, they told me I was the right man for the bet. I asked them to explain the bet. One of the gentlemen gave me an envelope. I wanted to open it, but he said,
No, don't open it now. Wait until you are in your hotel room. Then read it very carefully.
I was confused, and I wanted to discuss the subject with them, but they didn't. I felt hurt because I was the subject of a joke. When I left their house, I looked for the pair on the street. It was gone. I was quite angry with those two gentlemen. Far from their house, I opened the envelope. I saw that there was money inside. I didn't stop to read their letter. I ran to the nearest eating place. I ate and ate and ate. At last, I took out the envelope with the money to pay for my meal. I looked at the banknote and almost fainted. It was a banknote worth $5 million. I was speechless. I stared at the banknote. The two gentlemen had made a big mistake. They probably wanted to give me a £1 banknote. I saw the owner of the eating place staring at the banknote too. We were both surprised. I did not know what to do or say, so I simply gave him the note and said, "Give me the change, please." The owner apologized 1,000 times.
I'm very sorry, but I can't change this banknote, sir.
"I don't have any other money. Please, change this note," the owner then said.
You can pay for this food whenever you want, sir. I understand that you are a very rich gentleman. You like playing jokes on people by dressing like a poor man. You can come here and eat all you want, whenever you want. You can pay me when you want.
Part 3. The Letter. When I left the eating place, I hurried to the house of the two gentlemen. I wanted to correct the mistake they had made. I was very nervous. When I arrived, the same servant opened the door. I asked for the two gentlemen. The servant said, Gone? Gone where?
Oh, on a journey.
But where did they go?
To the continent, I think.
The continent?
Yes, sir.
When will they return?
In a month.
A month? Oh, this is awful. How can I talk to them? It's extremely important.
I can't help you. I don't know where they are, sir.
Then I must see a member of the family.
All the family are away. They're in Egypt and India, I think.
Before leaving, the two gentlemen made an enormous mistake. They will certainly return home tonight. Tell them that I came here to correct the mistake. I'll return tomorrow.
I'll tell them if I see them, but I won't see them. Sir, you must not worry, because everything is all right. They will be here on time, and they will see you then. Goodbye.
I was confused. My head was in a fog. I did not understand what the servant told me. The letter. I remembered the letter. This is what it said.
You are an intelligent and honest man. You are also poor and a stranger. In this envelope, you will find some money. It is yours only for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, return to this house. I have a bet on you. If I win this bet, you can have any job with any salary that you want.
There were no signature, no address, no date on the letter. How strange. I didn't know what to think. I went to a park, sat down, and thought about what to do. After an hour, I reached the decision that follows. The two old gentlemen are playing a game that I don't understand. They are betting on me. But at that time, I didn't know anything about the details of the bet. If I go to the Bank of England to return the banknote, the bank will ask me lots of questions. If I tell the truth, no one will believe me. They will put me in an asylum. If I tell a lie, the police will put me in prison. I can't even give it to anyone because no honest person will want it. I can do only one thing. I must keep the bill for a whole month, and I must not lose it. If I help the old man to win his bet, he'll give me the job I want. The idea of an important job with a big salary made me happy. With this exciting
Nunca
idea
tengo
in
un presago
mind,
ya
I
atrás.
began walking down the streets of
Visión
London.
completa.
Part 4. At the tailor's. Every time I passed in front of a tailor's, I wanted to enter and buy some new clothes. But I had no money to pay for them. The £1 million banknote in my pocket was useless. I passed in front of the same tailor's 6 times. At last, I entered. I quietly asked if they had an old, unattractive suit that no one wanted to buy. The man I spoke to nodded his head, but he didn't speak. Then another man looked at me and nodded his head. I went to him, and he said,
One moment, please.
After some time, he took me to a back room. He looked at several ugly suits that no one wanted. He chose the worst for me. I really wanted a suit, so I said nothing. It was time to pay. Can you wait a few days for the money? I haven't got any small change with me. The man said,
Oh, you haven't? Well, I thought gentlemen like you carried large change.
My friend, I replied, you can't judge a stranger by the clothes he wears. I can pay for
70.
this suit. But can you change a large banknote?
Oh, of course we can change a large banknote.
He said coldly. I gave him the banknote. He received it with a smile. A big smile
Ahí tenía el
that covered his
125, pues.
face. When he read the banknote, His smile disappeared. The owner of the shop came over and asked me,
What's the trouble?
There isn't any trouble. I'm waiting for my change.
Come, give him his change, Todd, quickly.
Todd answered.
It's easy to say, but look at the banknote.
The owner looked at the banknote.
Por acá
Then
que
he looked at
tenemos
my package
140.
with the ugly suit.
Todd,
He shouted.
you're stupid. How can you sell this unattractive suit to a millionaire? Todd, you can't see the difference between a millionaire and a poor
Arquito
man.
6.
I apologize, sir.
The owner continued.
Please
queda
take off
15.
those things you're wearing and throw them in the fire. Put on this fine shirt and this handsome suit. It's perfect.
Pero aquí no
But
sube.
elegant.
I told him I was very happy with the new suit.
Oh, wait until you see what we can make for you in your size. Todd, bring a pen and a book. Let me measure your leg, your arm.
I didn't have a moment to
Y no
speak.
subió. Ítem
The
en
owner measured
Ostain.
me.
No sé qué
Then he
ítem en
ordered
Ostain. No
his
sé qué
tailors to
ítem
make
en
me
Ostain.
morning suits, evening suits, shirts, coats.
Por ti cuesta menos.
Pese a combate de misiones. Ujú. Ah, ok, me dio misiones. Vamos por acá. Hola. Seguimos por acá. Entre tata. Almirante Brown. Juega Play Almirante Grado 8. ¿Cuáles son los criterios? Ujú. Ah, ok, me da 25, pero tengo que dar las misiones acá. Ah, con razón, 25. O sea que no es gratis, abrir por 6 días. No es gratis. Tengo que buscar estas misiones. Me las dio, 25 misiones. Harmony, 25 misiones ahí, ¿qué más? Se me paga 10.000 aquí por eso, coño. ¿Ah? Tan. Ahora sí por un día. Me quedo aquí mal. 4 millones me quedo mal. 4 millones es demasiado. 10 millones, demasiado. Dando cupón. Antes de que lo no ocupo, pues, ¿qué es esto? Y Bristol Couple. ¿Qué es esto? 7 días para comprarlo. Y este. Tú ya dime. Para comprar uno. Los doblones. Ingleses.
Now you're a millionaire, a celebrity here in London. I can't believe it. How exciting.
I can't believe it either, Lloyd.
Just 3 months ago, we went to the Miners Restaurant.
No, it was the What Cheer restaurant.
Right. It was the What Cheer. We went there at 2 o'clock in the morning. We had steak and coffee. That night, we worked for 6 long hours on the Gould and Curry Mining Company papers. Do you remember, Henry? I asked you to come to London.
¿Cómo es la cosa aquí?
I wanted you to help me sell the Gould
El
and
20% de
Curry
cuánto en
wine
cuáles.
ships, but you
En
refused.
London.
Of course I remember. I didn't want to leave my job in San Francisco.
Vanguard, Indomitable, Aspire, lo tengo, Tiger,
Here in London.
Befa, Corsata, Duke, Hot, Aspire, Royal, London, War, ingleses, Agrico, Expert, Demon, Champion. Ok, pero que inglés hay bueno por ahí, pues. Vamos a ver los ingleses,
The
pues.
dinner party, you must tell me what happened.
Oh, can I? I really need to talk to a friend.
Lloyd said with water in his eyes. Yes, I want to hear the
Ingleses,
whole story,
solamente ingleses.
every word of it.
Thank you, Henry. You are a true friend.
At this point, it was time for dinner.
Indomitable, Vanguard.
Thanks to the English system of precedence, there was no dinner. The Duke of
Tiger
Shoreditch
59,
wanted to sit
8.
at the head of the table. The American ambassador also wanted to sit at the head of the table.
Befa,
It was impossible for them to
Hot.
decide, so we had no dinner.
Corsat,
The English know about the system of precedence. They have dinner before going out to dinner. But strangers know nothing about it. They remain hungry all evening. Instead, we had a dish of sardines and
25, póngale aquí
now it was time for everyone
10%.
to play a game called cribbage. The English never play a game for fun. They play to win or to lose something. Miss Langham and I played the game, but with little interest. I looked at her beautiful face and said,
Sí, señor.
Miss Langham, I love you.
Mr. Adams,
She said softly and smiled.
I love you too.
This was a wonderful evening.
Está buena la
Miss
oferta.
Langham and I were very happy. We smiled, laughed, and talked. I was honest with her. I told her that I was poor and that I didn't have a cent in the world. I explained that the £1,000,000 note was not mine. She was very curious to know more. I told her the whole story from the start. She laughed and laughed. She thought the story was very funny. I didn't understand why it was funny. I also explained that I needed an important job with a big salary to pay all my debts. Portia, dear, can you come with me on the day I must meet those two gentlemen?
Well, yes, if I can help you.
She replied, Of course you can help me. You're so lovely that when the two gentlemen see you, I can ask for any job and any salary. With you there, my sweet Portia, the two gentlemen won't refuse me anything. Part 7. A $1,000,000 Idea. At the end of the dinner party, I returned to the hotel with Hastings. He talked about his problems, but I didn't listen to him. I was thinking about Portia the whole time. When we arrived at the hotel, Hastings said,
Let me just stand here and look at this marvelous hotel. It's a palace. What expensive furniture. You have everything you want. You are rich, Henry, and I am poor.
His words scared me. I, too, was poor. I didn't have a cent in the world, and I had debts to pay. I needed to
Está
win
caro.
the gentleman's bet. This was my last hope. Hastings didn't know the truth.
Henry, just a tiny part of your income can save me. I'm desperate.
Hastings cried. My dear Hastings, sit down here and drink this hot whiskey. Now, tell me your whole story, every word of it.
Do you want to hear my story again?
But you never told me your story.
Of course I told you my story as we walked to the hotel. Don't you remember?
I didn't hear one word of it.
Henry, are you ill? Is something wrong with you? What did you drink at the dinner party?
Oh, Hastings, I'm in love. I can only think about my sweet Portia. This is why I didn't hear your story before. Hastings got up from his chair, shook my hand, and laughed.
I'm very happy for you, Henry. Very happy,
He said, smiling.
I'll tell you the whole story again.
So he sat down and patiently started to tell me his story. To make a long story short, the owners of the Gould and Curry gold mine sent Henry to England to sell the shares of the mine for $1 million. Any money he received over $1 million was his to keep. Hastings' dream was to sell the shares for more than $1 million and become rich. He had only 1 month to sell the shares. He had done everything to sell them, but nobody wanted to buy them. Then he jumped up and cried.
Henry, you can help me. Will you do it?
Tell me how.
Give me $1 million, and I'll sell you all the shares. You will be the new owner of the gold mine. Don't refuse.
I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell Hastings the truth, but then an intelligent idea came to me. I thought about it for a moment, and then calmly said, I will save you, Lloyd.
Then I am already saved. How can I thank you?
Let me finish, Lloyd. I will save you, but not in that way. I have a better way. I know everything about that mine. I know its great value. You will sell the shares by using my name. You can send anyone to me. Since people in London know me, I will guarantee the gold mine. In a week or two, you will sell the shares for $3 million by using my name, and we'll share the money you earn, half to you and half to me. Lloyd was very happy and excited. He danced around the room and laughed.
La vaina.
Use your name. Your name. Think of it. The rich Londoners will run to buy these shares. I'm saved. And I'll never forget you, Henry.
Part 8. Back to Portland Place. The next day, all of London talked about the shares of the California gold mine. I stayed in my hotel and said to everyone who came to me, Yes, I know Mr. Hastings. He's a very honest man, and I know the gold mine, because I lived in the California gold country. It is a mine of
Ay,
great
papá, aquí me volvieron leña a mí.
People were now interested in buying
Él tiene 9 días.
I spent every evening with Portia at the American ambassador's house. I didn't tell her about the shares and the
Me
mine.
agarran ante todos.
It was a surprise. We talked about our love and our future together.
No pasa más nada. Me metí donde no era. Uno allá, dos acá, tres acá,
Lots of
rodeadito.
rich Londoners bought the shares of the mine. I had $1 million
Rodeadito.
of my own in the London and County Bank, and Lloyd did too. It was time to meet with the two old gentlemen. I dressed in my best clothes,
Y estoy protegiendo
and I went to get Portia.
No, hombre.
Before going to Portland Place, Portia and I talked about the job and the salary.
Mira cómo salimos de aquí.
Portia, you are so beautiful. When the two gentlemen meet you, they'll give me any job and any salary I ask for.
Henry, please remember that if we ask for too much, we will get nothing. Then
Entra que es muy fácil.
Don't be afraid, Portia. When we arrived, the same servant opened the door. There were the two old gentlemen having tea. They were surprised to see Portia. I introduced her to them. Then I said, Gentlemen, I am ready to report to you.
We are pleased to hear this,
said one gentleman.
Now we can decide the bet that my brother Abel and I made. If you won for me, you can have any job in my power.
Do you have the £1,000,000 note? Here it is, sir. And I gave it to him. I won! He shouted. Now what do you say, Abel? I say he survived, and I lost £20,000. I can't believe it. I have more to tell you, I said. But it's a long story. I'll tell you another time. For now, look at this. What? A certificate of deposit for £200,000? Is it yours? It's mine. I earned it by using the banknote you lent me for a month. This is astonishing. I can't believe it. Portia looked at me with surprise and said,
Henry, is that really your money? You didn't tell me the truth.
No, I didn't, but I know you'll forgive me.
Don't be so sure. You told me a lie, Henry.
Dearest Portia, it was only for fun. Come, let's go now. But wait, my gentleman said. I want to give you the job and the salary you choose. Thank you with all my heart. But I don't want the job.
Henry, you didn't thank the good gentleman in the right way. Can I do it for you?
Portia said. Of course you can, my dear. Portia walked to my gentleman, sat on his lap, and kissed him on the mouth. Then the two old gentlemen shouted and laughed. I was amazed. What was happening?
Papa,
Said Portia.
Henry doesn't want your job. I feel very hurt.
Darling, is that your father? I asked.
Yes, he's my stepfather, a dear man. Now do you understand why I laughed when you told me your story?
My dearest sir, I said, I want to take back what I said. There is a job that I want. Tell me. I want the job of son-in-law. Well. But you were never a son-in-law before. Do you know how to do this job? Try me, please. Try me for 30 or 40 years, and if... all right. Take that. Were Portia and I happy? There aren't enough words in the dictionary to describe our happiness. When the Londoners heard the whole story of my adventures with the banknote, they talked of nothing else. Portia's father took the banknote back to the Bank of England and cashed it. Then he gave us the cancelled banknote as a wedding present. We put it in a picture frame and hung it on the wall in our new home. And so, I always say, yes, it's a £1,000,000 banknote, but it only bought one thing in its life, the most valuable thing in the world, Portia.
The story follows the journey of an American man named Henry Adams, who is stranded in London and is given a £1,000,000 banknote as a practical joke. Adams tries to use the note to buy food and lodging, but is constantly met with skepticism and disbelief due to the seemingly outrageous value of the note. Through a series of unexpected events, the note ultimately helps Adams to secure employment and regain his confidence. The story is a clever and entertaining story that explores themes of love, class, and human nature. Mark Twain uses his signature wit and humor to comment on the absurdities of society and the obsession with money. The story is full of memorable characters, including the eccentric brothers who give Adams the banknote and the skeptical merchants and aristocrats who refuse to believe its value. The story also raises interesting questions about the nature of wealth and its effects on people. Despite his initial struggles to use the note, Adams ultimately finds that the mere possession of it gives him confidence and power in his interactions with others. The story suggests that money can have a psychological and social impact beyond its actual purchasing power. In addition to its commentary on money and class, the £1,000,000 banknote is also a story about the power of perception and the role of luck in life. Adams' experiences in London highlight the importance of money and the power of a good reputation. Despite his lack of funds and resources, Adams is able to use the banknote to present himself as a wealthy and powerful individual, which in turn opens doors for him and helps him to succeed. The story is also notable for its use of irony and the unexpected twists and turns that the plot takes. Twain skillfully sets up expectations and then subverts them, leading to humorous and surprising moments throughout the story. The ending, in which the true value of the banknote is revealed, is particularly satisfying and highlights the absurdity of the situation. Overall, the £1,000,000 banknote is a clever and enjoyable work of fiction that continues to be read and appreciated today.
No volvió en leña.
It is a testament to
Terminaron
Mark
atacando a
Twain's
nosotros, qué
skill
pena.
and his ability to comment on the social and cultural issues of his time in a humorous and engaging way.
Hola.
Empieza a aprender un nuevo idioma con...
Action stations. Attention. This is your primary task. Provide cover for the convoy.
Published in 1907. The story is about two men, Bill Driscoll and Sam, who plan to kidnap a wealthy man's son and hold him for ransom in order to make some easy money.
Awaiting instructions.
In 1825, I was 10 years old. My father and mother were dead. I lived with my aunt and uncle, Mr. and Mrs. Reed. Their house was called Gateshead Hall. The house was in Yorkshire, in the north.
La pasamos.
My aunt and Uncle Reed had 2 children, a boy, John, and a girl, Eliza. I liked my Uncle Reed,
Verga, qué responsabilidad, ¿no?
but in 1825, my uncle died. After that, I was very unhappy. My Aunt Reed did not like me, and John and Eliza were unkind to me. It was a cold, rainy day in December. All of us were in the house. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to read. I opened a book. Then I heard my cousin John's voice. Jane? Jane Eyre? Where are you? John shouted. He came into the room and he saw me. Why are you reading my book? He asked. Give it to me. John took the book. He hit my head with it. I screamed. John hit me again. I pulled his hair and I kicked him. Help! Help! Mama! John shouted. Jane Eyre is hurting me. Aunt Reed ran into the room. She pulled me away from John. John hit me with a book, I said. I hate him, and I hate you too. You are a bad girl, Jane, my aunt said. Why do you hate me? You don't like me, I replied. John and Eliza are unkind to me. I want to leave Gateshead Hall. You want to leave? Aunt Reed said. Where will you go?
Qué rápido.
Your parents are dead. You cannot live alone. Aunt Reed thought for a moment. My friend, Mr. Brocklehurst, is the owner of a school, she said. I will send you to Mr. Brocklehurst's school. A few days later, Mr. Brocklehurst came to Gateshead Hall. He was a very tall man. His eyes were dark, and his face was cruel. Jane Eyre, he said to me, God does not like bad children. God punishes bad children, Jane Eyre. God will punish John Reed, I replied. John Reed hits me, and he shouts at me. That is not true. You are a liar, Jane Eyre, Mr. Brocklehurst said. You must not tell lies, and you must not live here with your cousins. You will come to Lowood School. You will become a good girl. I want to come to your school, sir, I said. I want to leave this house. Bad girls are punished at my school, Jane Eyre, Mr. Brocklehurst said. The girls work very hard, Lowood. I will work hard. I will be a good pupil, Mr. Brocklehurst, I said. 2 weeks later, I left Gateshead Hall. I went to Lowood School. Chapter 2. Lowood School. It was the month of January. I arrived at Lowood School at night. We up some stairs and into a big bedroom. There were many beds in the room. Girls in the beds were asleep. The servant took me to an empty bed. I put on my night clothes. I got into bed. Soon, I was asleep too. I woke up very early. A loud bell was ringing. The bedroom was dark and cold. I watched the other girls. They washed in cold water. They dressed quickly. There was a plain brown dress next to my bed, and there was a pair of ugly, heavy shoes. I washed quickly. Then I put on my new clothes.
casa, pajarito.
Our food was terrible.
A tu casa.
The food is bad again, one of the girls said. Stand up, a teacher shouted. Don't talk. We stood up. We did not speak. And we sat down. There were about 80 girls in the schoolroom, and there were 4 classes. The oldest girls were in the 4th class. I was in the 1st class. 4 teachers came into the room, and we began our lessons. The lessons were not interesting. First, we read some pages in a book. Then, our teacher asked us questions about those pages. It was very cold. Very soon a bell rang. Lessons started again. 3 weeks passed. One afternoon, the head teacher came into the schoolroom. The head teacher's name was Miss Temple. Mr. Brocklehurst was with her. We all stood up. An older girl. I did not want Mr. Brocklehurst to see me. Mr. Brocklehurst walked slowly round the room. Everybody was very quiet. And then I dropped my book. Mr. Brocklehurst stopped walking. Ah, he said. Come here, Jane Eyre. Then he pointed at 2 of the older girls. You 2 girls, put Jane Eyre on that hard. Look at Jane Eyre, everybody, Mr. Brocklehurst said. This child is bad. She is a liar. She will be punished. Teachers, girls, do not talk to this child. Then he spoke to me again. Jane Eyre, you must stand on that chair for 2 hours, he said. You are a bad girl. That evening, I cried and cried. Miss Temple was kind to me. You are a good pupil, Jane, she said, and you are not a bad. I am your friend, Jane. Thank you, Miss Temple, I said. Lowood School was in an unhealthy place. The buildings were wet and cold. Mr. Brocklehurst owned the school. He was a rich man, but he did not buy warm clothes for us, and he did not buy good food for us. Everybody hated
Un
him.
ganado, coño feo.
In the spring,
Estaba toda la gente, no
many
sé.
of the girls became sick.
¿Dónde estaba toda
Some
la
of
gente?
them
No
left
sé.
the school. They never came back. Many of the girls died. That spring was a terrible time.
Éramos más que
We had
ellos.
no lessons.
Y éramos
Miss
más que ellos,
Temple and
pana.
the other teachers took care of the sick pupils. Mr. Brocklehurst had to buy better food for us. And he had to buy warm clothes for us. Mr. Brocklehurst never came to the school. The next year, Lowood School moved to a better place. It was a healthier place. There were new schoolrooms, new bedrooms, and a new dining room. The new buildings were bright and clean. The teachers were happy. After that, I was happy at Lowood School too. I was a pupil at Lowood School for 6 years. Then I became a teacher. I was a teacher at the school for 2 years. But I never returned to Gateshead Hall, and the Reeds never wrote to me. Chapter 3. Thornfield Hall. In 1833, I was 18 years old. In the summer, Miss Temple left Lowood School. She got married. I wanted to leave Lowood too. I wanted a new life. I will be a governess, I thought. I put an advertisement in the
No podía leer
newspaper. October 1833. Lowood. A young woman wants to teach 1 or 2 children in their home. She teaches English, arithmetic, geography, religion, French, drawing, and music. J.E. I had a reply to my advertisement. The reply was from Mrs. Fairfax of Thornfield Hall near Millcote. Millcote was about 70 miles from Lowood School. Mrs. Fairfax wanted a governess for a little girl. I wrote to Mrs. Fairfax immediately. I was going to be a governess at Thornfield Hall. I travelled to Millcote in a coach. At Millcote, a servant met me. He took me to Thornfield Hall. At Thornfield Hall, another servant opened the doors. She was smiling. She took me into a small, warm room. A lady was in the room. She was sitting by the fire. "Are you Mrs. Fairfax?" I asked her. "Yes, my dear," she said. "And you are Miss Eyre. Are you cold? Sit by the fire, Miss Eyre. A servant will bring you some food." "Mrs. Fairfax is very kind," I said to myself. "I will be happy here." "Will I see Miss Fairfax tonight?" I asked. Mrs. Fairfax looked at me. She smiled. "Miss Fairfax? No, she said.
Awaiting instructions.
Miss Fairfax, your cook is Adele Barrow." Adele's mother was a Frenchwoman. Adele is Mr. Rochester's wife. He takes care of her. "Mr. Rochester? Who is Mr. Rochester?" I asked. "Mr. Edward Rochester is the owner of Thornfield Hall," Mrs. Fairfax said. "I am his housekeeper. I take care of Thornfield Hall. Mr. Rochester is not
Force
here.
detected.
Like this house. He is often away from home." I was very tired. Mrs. Fairfax took me up the wide stairs. She took me to my room. I went to bed immediately, and I slept well. The next morning, I woke early. The sun was shining. I put on a plain black dress. I opened my bedroom door. I walked along corridors and down the wide stairs. I walked out into the sunny garden. I turned and I looked up at my new home. Thornfield Hall was a beautiful house with many large windows. The garden was beautiful too. After a few minutes, Mrs. Fairfax came into the garden. She spoke to me. "Good morning, Miss Eyre," she said. "You have woken early. Miss Adele is here. After breakfast, you must take her to the schoolyard. She must begin her lessons." A pretty little girl walked towards me. She was about 8 years old. She spoke to me in French, and I replied in French. After breakfast, I took Adele to the schoolroom. We worked all morning. Adele enjoyed her lessons, and I was happy. In the afternoon, Mrs. Fairfax took me into all the rooms of Thornfield beautiful countryside around Thornfield Hall. We walked up many stairs. At last, we were at the top of the house. We walked along the top corridor. Mrs. Fairfax opened a small door, and we walked onto the roof.
The ship is on
Miss
fire!
Air, Mrs. Fairfax said. You can see for many miles. We stood on the roof for a few minutes. Then we went back into the house. We walked carefully towards the stairs. The top corridor was long.
The ship is on fire!
Suddenly, I heard a strange laugh. Who is that, Mrs. Fairfax? I asked. Mrs. Fairfax did not
Aguanta ahí.
She knocked on the door. Grace, she said. The door opened. Behind the door was a small room. A servant was standing at the door. Be quiet, Grace, please, Mrs. Fairfax said. The woman looked at Mrs. Fairfax. Then she closed the door. That was Grace Poole, Mrs. Fairfax said. She works up here.
The ship is on fire!
Sometimes she laughs and talks with the other servants. Don't worry about Grace. Please come downstairs now, Miss Eyre. Chapter 4. Mr. Rochester. 3 months passed. The owner of Thornfield Hall, Mr. Rochester had not returned. One January afternoon, I went out and I walked towards the road. I was going to the village of Hay. I was going to post a letter in the village. The day was
Le dio uno
hot,
solamente.
it was very cold.
All breeze. We're taking on
I
water
walked
quickly.
quickly, and soon I was near the village. Suddenly, a big black and white dog ran past me.
Torpedoes to port.
A moment later, a man in a black horse followed the dog.
Torpedoes to port.
Then, I heard an angry shout. The dog ran past me.
Pues máquina.
It was barking loudly. I turned round. On the icy ground, and the man had fallen from the horse. I walked towards them. Can I help you, sir? I asked. My horse fell. I've hurt my foot, the man said. The horse stood up. The man tried to stand up too, but he could not stand. He fell onto the ground again. The man was about 35 years old. He
Un
was
solo
not
que falta
handsome,
un solo.
but he had a strong face. He had dark eyes and black hair. He was not very tall, but his body was powerful. I'll bring somebody from Thornfield Hall, I said. Do you live at Thornfield? The man asked. I am the governess, I replied. Ah, yes, the governess. Help me, please. The man stood up very slowly, and he put his hand on the ground. He walked slowly towards his horse. I helped him. We all went up on the horse. Thank you. Now go on quickly, I said. I walked on to the village, and I posted my letter. Then I returned to Thornfield Hall. Bright lights were shining in the big house. I went inside. A big, black and white dog walked towards me. It came from the dining room. I had seen the dog before. Whose dog is that? I asked a servant. It's Mr. Rochester's dog, the servant replied. Mr. Rochester has come home. but he has hurt his foot. His horse fell on some ice. I smiled. The owner of Thornfield Hall had returned. But I did not see Mr. Rochester again that day. I saw Mr. Rochester the next day. He sent for me in the evening. I put on a clean dress. I brushed my hair carefully. Mr. Rochester was in the large sitting room. He was sitting in a big chair. His right foot was on a small chair. Mrs. Fairfax and Adele were sitting with him. "This is Miss Eyre, sir," Mrs. Fairfax said. Mr. Rochester looked at me. He did not smile. "Sit by the fire, Miss Eyre," he said. "Where have you come from?" "From Lowood School," I replied. "I was there for 8 years." "8 years?" Mr. Rochester said. "That is a long time. Who are your parents?" "I have no parents, sir," I answered. "They are dead." "But where is your home, Miss Eyre?" Mr. Rochester asked. "I have no home, sir. I have no family," I said. "Why did you come to Thornfield Hall?" Mr. Rochester asked. "I wanted to leave Lowood, sir," I replied. "I put an advertisement in a newspaper. Mrs. Fairfax replied to my advertisement." "Yes, I did," Mrs. Fairfax said. "Miss Eyre is a good teacher, Mr. Rochester." Mr. Rochester smiled for the first time. "You are very young, Miss Eyre," he said. "I am 18, sir," I replied. Mr. Rochester smiled again. He did not ask me more questions. After that evening, I did not see Mr. Rochester for a few days. Then, one night, he sent for me again. "Sit near me,
Aquí
Miss
por aquí.
Eyre," he said. "Mrs.
A ver, lo
Fairfax will
conseguiremos.
talk to Adele." I sat down
O
quietly,
buscando.
but I did not speak. The
Demonios.
fire was very bright. I saw Mr. Rochester's face clearly. I saw his large, dark eyes. He was smiling. He was happy. After a minute, "Miss Eyre," he said, "you are looking at me very carefully. Am I a handsome man?" "No, sir," I said. "Speak the truth, Miss Eyre," Mr. Rochester said. "Look at me again. Am I a kind man?" "No, sir," I said again. "You are smiling now, but you are not always kind." "That is true," Mr. Rochester replied. "I have had a difficult life. I have met bad people. I have been a bad person myself. Now, Thornfield Hall is my home. But I hate this house. You are very young, Miss Eyre. You cannot understand me." "You are right. I don't understand you, sir," I said. I stood up. "Where are you going?"
No, me está apuntando a
Mr.
mí.
Rochester asked.
Está apuntando a
"It
mí.
is late.
¿Ya qué cara? Ya corre ya.
I said. "Are you
Adiós.
frightened of me, Miss Eyre?" Mr. Rochester asked. "No, sir," I replied. "But you say strange things, sir." Mr. Rochester smiled. "Take Adele to her bedroom now, Miss Eyre," he said. "We will talk again tomorrow." After that night, many times, Mr. Rochester was an interesting man,
Listo.
but he was a
Lo que se pudo
strange
hacer.
man too. I often thought about him. Why does Mr. Rochester hate Thornfield? I asked myself. Thornfield Hall is a beautiful place.
Me dice que vaya detrás de esa
But
piedrita.
Mr. Rochester is not happy. Chapter 5. Fire. It was March. One night I was in bed, but I was not asleep. The house was quiet. Suddenly, I heard a sound in the corridor outside my room. "Who's there?" I said. Nobody answered. Then I heard a strange laugh. I got out of my bed and I went quietly to the door. I listened. I heard another sound. Somebody was walking up the stairs to the top corridor. Then I heard somebody close a door. "Is that Grace Poole?" I said to myself. Yes, it was Grace. Why was she laughing? And why is she walking in the house at night? Is she mad? I must tell Mrs. Fairfax about this. I will speak to her
No dice
now.
nada.
I put on some clothes and I opened the door. There was a candle on the floor outside my room. The candle was burning. There was thick smoke in the corridor. I went into the corridor. I looked around me. The door of Mr. Rochester's bedroom was open, and the smoke was coming from Mr. Rochester's room. I ran into the room. "Wake up, sir!" "What happened, Jane?" "There was a fire, sir. Grace Poole tried to kill you." "Stay here, Jane. Open the window. I'll go upstairs." I sat in a chair by the window. Time passed. At last, Mr. Rochester returned. "Please don't worry, Jane," he said. "Grace Poole is a strange woman, but she won't hurt anybody tonight." I stood up. "Good night, sir," I said. Mr. Rochester held my hand. He looked at me, and he smiled. "Thank you, my dear friend," he said. "You saved my life tonight, Jane." "Good night, sir," I said again. I went back to my bed. I was very tired, but at first I could not sleep. Suddenly, I understood something. I loved Mr. Rochester. He had smiled at me. He had held my hand. Did he love me? I did not know. But I thought about Mr. Rochester for a long time.
Por fuera.
I did not see Mr. Rochester the next day. He did not send for me. In the evening, I went down to Mrs. Fairfax's sitting room. The housekeeper was looking out of the window. "The weather has been good today," Mrs. Fairfax said. "Mr. Rochester had a good day for his journey." "His journey? Where has he gone?" I asked. I was surprised. "He has gone to Ingram Park," Mrs. Fairfax replied. "Mr. Rochester will stay there for a week or more. He has many friends. All his friends will be at Ingram Park this week." "Will there be any ladies at Ingram Park?" I asked. "Yes," Mrs. Fairfax said. "There will be many ladies there. Miss Blanche Ingram will be there. Mr. Rochester has known her for many years. Is Miss Ingram beautiful? I asked. She is very beautiful, Mrs. Fairfax said. Will Mr. Rochester marry her? I asked. Mrs. Fairfax smiled. I don't know, Miss Eyre, she replied. I don't know. I was very unhappy. I went up to my bedroom. I looked in my mirror. Jane Eyre, I said to myself, you are not pretty, and you are poor. Mr. Rochester will never marry you. He will marry Miss Blanche Ingram. She is a rich lady. You are a poor governess. Forget Mr. Rochester, Jane Eyre. Forget him. Chapter 6. Guests at Thornfield Hall. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived for Mrs. Fairfax. Mr. Rochester will return on Thursday, Mrs. Fairfax said. Some of his friends will come here with him. There will be many guests at Thornfield Hall. On Thursday evening, Mrs. Fairfax were in Adele's bedroom. Mrs. Fairfax was looking out of the window. The guests are arriving now, Mrs. Fairfax said. I went to the window and I looked out. There were 3 carriages. Horses. Mr. Rochester was riding his big black horse. A beautiful young woman was riding a white horse. Mrs. Fairfax pointed to the young woman. That is Miss Ingram, the housekeeper said. Then she went downstairs. Adele wanted to go downstairs too. No, Adele, I said. We cannot go downstairs tonight. Mr. Rochester is talking to his guests. The next day, Mrs. Fairfax came into the schoolroom. Mr. Rochester wants you to meet his guests tonight, Miss Eyre, she said. Adele must meet them too. And I went quietly into the sitting room. And soon, 8 ladies came into the room. One of them was tall, dark, and very beautiful. She was Blanche Ingram. Adele ran towards her. Good evening, beautiful lady, she said in French.
Uno para el coño aquí.
What a pretty little girl, Blanche Ingram said. Miss Ingram spoke to the other ladies. I spoke to her, but she did not speak to me. Half an hour later, the gentleman came into the room. I looked at Mr. Rochester. He saw me, but he did not speak to me. Miss Ingram pointed at Adele. Why doesn't this little girl live at school, Mr. Rochester? She asked. Adele learns her lessons at home, Mr. Rochester replied. She has a governess. Oh, yes, that small woman by the window, Miss Ingram said. I had many governesses. I hated all of them. They were all ugly and stupid. Later, Miss Ingram and Mr. Rochester sang some songs together. Mr. Rochester had a fine voice. I listened to the songs. Then I left the room. Mr. Rochester followed me. What is wrong, Jane? Nothing is wrong, sir, I said. But I am tired. I'm going to my room. Good night, sir. You are tired. And you are unhappy too, Mr. Rochester replied. There are tears in your eyes.
and laughing, sir, I replied. Mr. Mason is talking to the other guests. One day, they will all hate me. Mr. Rochester said, now go into the dining room again. Tell Mason to meet me in the library. I gave Mr. Mason a message. I got into my bed. Later, I heard Mr. Rochester coming up the stairs with Mr. Mason. They were laughing and talking. Soon, I was asleep. Chapter 7. A terrible night. Some hours later, I woke up. A terrible cry had woken me. The moon was bright. Its light was shining through my window. I listened. Then I heard somebody shouting. Help! Help! Rochester! Help me! The voice came from the top corridor. Help! Help! I got out of bed and I put on a dress and some shoes. I opened my door. All the guests were in the corridor outside the bedrooms. They were all asking questions. What happened? They asked. Is there a fire? Who is hurt? Where is Mr. Rochester? I am here, Mr. Rochester said. He was walking down the stairs from the top corridor. What is wrong, Mr. Rochester? Miss Ingram asked. What has happened? Nothing is wrong, Mr. Rochester replied. One of the servants has had a bad dream. Go back to bed. I went back to my room, but something was wrong. I did not get into my bed. I waited. Soon, somebody knocked on my door. I opened the door. Mr. Rochester was standing in the corridor. Jane, follow me. Do not make a sound, Mr. Rochester said. We went up to the top corridor. Mr. Rochester unlocked a door, and we went inside a room. Mr. Mason was sitting on a chair in the room. His face was pale, and his shirt was covered with blood. Then I heard a terrible laugh. The sound came from the next room. Grace Poole is a mad woman, I thought. Why does Mr. Rochester have a mad servant? Mr. Rochester spoke quietly to Mr. Mason. I am going to bring a doctor, Richard, he said. Then he spoke to me. Stay here, Jane. Wash Mr. Mason's arm, but do not speak to him. Mr. Rochester left the room. I washed Mr. Mason's arm. We waited for Mr. Rochester and the doctor. Mr. Mason did not speak to me, and I did not speak to him. After 2 hours, Mr. Rochester returned. The doctor was with him. The doctor looked at Mr. Mason's arm. With me, Mr. Mason said. I came up here. I wanted to see her. I wanted to help her, but she bit me. Be quiet now, Richard, Mr. Rochester said quickly. The doctor put a bandage on Mr. Mason's arm. Mr. Rochester put Mr. Mason's coat round the injured man's shoulders. Then he spoke to me again.
Uy.
Run downstairs, Jane. Unlock the small door at the side of the house, he said. We will follow you. I went quickly downstairs, and I opened the door. Outside the door, a servant was waiting with a carriage. Mr. Mason and the doctor came out of the house. They got into the carriage.
Then Mr. Rochester came out of the house too. Mr. Mason spoke to him through the window of the carriage. "Help her. Be kind to her, Rochester," he said. "Yes, I will, Mason," Mr. Rochester said. The servant drove the carriage away. "Will you walk in the garden with me, Jane?" Mr. Rochester asked. "I do not want to sleep now." "Yes, I will, sir," I said. Soon it was morning. The birds were beginning to sing. The flowers had a sweet smell. "It has been a strange night, Jane," Mr. Rochester said. "Were you frightened?" "I am frightened of Grace Poole," I said. "She will hurt you one day." "I am stronger than she is. She will not hurt me," Mr. Rochester said. He looked at me for a few moments. "Are you my friend, Jane?" he asked me. "Yes, sir. I will be your friend forever," I replied. "Thank you, my dear," Mr. Rochester said. "I have made mistakes.
180 me va a quedar con la mitad.
Now I want to be happy. That is not wrong, is it, Jane?" He stopped speaking for a minute. Then he said, "Go into the house. I'll talk to you tomorrow." But the next day, I had a letter from Gateshead Hall, my Aunt Reed's house. The letter was from my cousin Eliza. Gateshead Hall. Dear Jane Eyre,
5%
my
menos.
brother, John, is dead. My mother is very ill.
Nottingham.
She wants to speak to you. Please come quickly, Jane. Your cousin, Eliza Reed. I started the journey to my Aunt Reed's house immediately. I arrived there the next day. My Aunt Reed was very, very ill. She could not move, and she did not speak to me. I wanted to return to Thornfield Hall. I wanted to see Mr. Rochester. But Eliza wanted me to stay at Gateshead Hall. After 3 weeks, my aunt spoke to me at last. She spoke very slowly. "Are you Jane Eyre?" she asked. "Yes, Aunt Reed, I am Jane Eyre," I replied. "There is a letter for you,"
Estamos buscando a este señor que está acá,
Aunt
vale.
Reed said. "It is in
Hasta
my
el
desk.
6.
Call Eliza, please. She will get the letter." Eliza came into the room. She opened the desk and she gave me a letter. "Read the letter, Jane,"
Con el punto
my
7.
aunt said. The letter
por
had
acá.
come from Madeira,
Hicimos por acá una vez.
but it was 3 years old.
257.
Madeira, October 1831. Dear Madam, I am Jane Eyre's uncle.
2.
I am a very rich man.
6.
I have no children.
7.
One day, Jane will have all my money.
Y esto no
Tell
lo voy
her
a usar
about
yo.
me. She must write to me.
Yo compré esto una vez.
John Eyre.
Yo compro este, lo trabajo, papá.
Letter,
Acabo de comprarme este,
Aunt Reed said.
lo trabajo.
I hated you, Jane.
Y pues,
I
tengo que
did
para
not
experiencia.
want you to have your uncle's money.
Yo tengo hasta de 256. ¿Y aquí cuánto voy a gastar?
Wrote, Jane Eyre
140.
is dead. She died at low
Por 100.000.
school. I am sorry, Jane.
Por 100.000.
Mrs. Reed died that night. I left Gateshead Hall a few days later. I took my uncle's letter with me.
Mr. Rochester met me at Thornfield Hall. Welcome back to my house,
¿Y aquí no usa?
he said. This is your home, Jane. Thank you,
Kansas,
sir,
Minnesota.
I said. I am very happy here. Mr. Rochester's guests had left.
140.
No other visitors came to Thornfield Hall.
15.
Every day,
100 y algo.
Mr. Rochester and I talked
Y
together.
9.
And every day,
De que después si los vendo, no me da lo
I
mismo.
loved him more. Chapter 8. In the Garden. In June, the weather was hot. One evening, I walked into the garden.
Kansas, que fue 8. Y
Mr.
buscando el
Rochester
Belmont
was there
también.
too. Do you like this house, Jane? He asked. Yes, sir, I replied. Soon, Adele will go to Liberty School, Jane, he said.
Puro 6 aquí.
Then I will not want a governess here. Will you be sad then, Jane? Will you leave Thornfield Hall?
8 y 9.
Leave? I said quickly.
8 y 9, vamos a ver, a
Must I
pensar.
leave Thornfield? My dear. Mr. Rochester stopped. He was silent. But you were not in the house.
O un
Are you afraid of a dream, Jane?
submarino.
Mr.
8.
Rochester asked. No, Edward, I replied. But I woke up from my dream. There was a woman in my room. She was tall and heavy. She had long black hair. The woman was holding a
161.
candle, I said. She put the candle by my mirror. She put my wedding veil over her head, and
Vamos a
she
hacerlo
looked
aquí.
at the mirror. Then I saw her face. It was a strange, terrible face, Edward, I said. Suddenly, the woman
Listo, voy a
tore
tener ese que me
my
hace
veil
falta.
into 2 pieces. She threw the pieces on the floor. What happened next? Mr. Rochester asked. The woman held her candle near my face, I replied. She looked at me and she laughed. Then she went away. This happened in your dream, Jane, Mr. Rochester said. It did not happen in my dream, Edward, I said.
Popeye.
This morning,
Este
my
de
wedding
Colorado.
veil was on the floor of my room. It was torn. It was in 2 pieces. But the woman did not hurt you, Jane, Mr. Rochester said. Sleep in Adele's room tonight, my dear. You will have no more bad dreams. Chapter 9. Mr. Rochester's Wife. It was our wedding day. We were going to be married in a church near Portsmouth.
Puro 6. ¿Cuánto tiempo falta?
After the marriage, we were going to travel to London.
Sesión, fin de semana,
I
11
got up
horas.
early. I put on my wedding dress and I went downstairs. Mr. Rochester was waiting for me. At 8 o'clock,
Ok,
we
¿y
walked
entonces en
together
cuál?
to the church. The clergyman was standing by the door of the church. There were 2 other people inside the church, 2 men. They were sitting in a dark corner. I could not see them very well. The clergyman started to speak. At every marriage, the clergyman asks an important question. He asks the people in the church, is there a problem about this marriage? The clergyman spoke loudly. He asked this question, and he waited. There was silence for a moment. And then, one of the men in the dark corner stood up. He spoke loudly.
There is a problem. These 2 people must not be married,
he said.
There is not a problem.
Mr. Rochester said to the clergyman.
Please go on with the marriage.
No, I cannot go on with the marriage, the clergyman replied. He spoke to the man in the corner. What is the problem, sir? He asked.
Mr. Edward Rochester has a wife.
Mr. Rochester turned and looked at the man.
Who are you? What do you know about me?
He asked angrily.
My name is Briggs, sir. I am a lawyer.
The man replied.
I know many things about you. 15 years ago, you were married in the West Indies. Your wife's name is Bertha. She is alive. She lives at
Balao.
Thornfield
Con
Hall.
el balao. Balao,
How
balao,
did
balao.
you know
Balao.
that? Mr. Rochester shouted. The other man in the dark corner stood up. He walked towards us. It was Richard Mason.
Bertha Mason is my sister,
he said.
I saw her at Thornfield Hall in April.
Mr. Rochester's face was pale. For a minute, he was silent. Then he spoke quietly. It is true, he said. My wife is living at Thornfield Hall. She is mad. Come to the house, all of you. Come and see Mrs. Rochester. Come and see the mad woman. We all left the church. Nobody spoke. At Thornfield, Mrs. Fairfax and Adele were waiting for us. They were smiling happily. Nobody will be happy today, Mr. Rochester said. We are not married. Briggs, Mr. Mason, the clergyman and I followed Mr. Rochester. We followed him up the stairs. He took us to the top corridor. He unlocked a door.
¿Qué tal es este submarino?
I had seen this room before. We walked through the room to another door. Mr. Rochester unlocked this door, and we saw a larger room. Yes. But another woman was there too. She was tall and heavy. Her dark hair was in front of her face. The woman turned and looked at us. I knew that terrible, mad face. I had seen it in my bedroom 2 nights before. The mad woman saw Mr. Rochester. She screamed and she ran towards him. Be careful, sir, Grace Poole said. The mad woman was very strong. She screamed and she hit Mr. Rochester. But Mr. Rochester held her arms. This woman is my wife, Mr. Rochester said angrily. I wanted to forget about her. I wanted to marry this young girl, Jane Eyre. Was I wrong? He was silent for a few moments. Then he spoke quietly. Yes, I was wrong, he said. I loved Jane Eyre, but I was wrong. Now go, all of you. I must take care of my mad wife. I went slowly downstairs. Mr. Briggs, the lawyer, spoke to me. I am sorry for you, Miss Eyre, he said.
Ya capturaron la hora, vamos a ver qué por aquí.
Your Uncle John Eyre is sorry for you too. He read your letter. In case he met Richard Mason in Madeira. Your uncle is dying, Miss Eyre. He could not come to England. He sent me here. He wanted me to stop this marriage. I did not answer. I went to my room and unlocked the door.
Los odio ya.
Put on a plain black dress. I laid on my bed. I am Jane Eyre today, I thought. I will be Jane Eyre
Mamá, que
tomorrow.
se me salvó.
I would never be Jane Rochester. I must leave Thornfield Hall. I must never see Mr. Rochester again. My life here is finished. Many hours later, I got off the bed. I unlocked my door. Mr. Rochester was waiting outside my room. You are
Ay, no.
Jane, he said.
Adiós. Intenté estirarme mi marido, no pude.
Jane,
No pude con el sitio ese. Uf,
Thornfield.
pero que hay que acabarlo.
Country. You will be happy again.
Había que acabarlo.
Be your wife. I cannot live with you, I said. I must leave you, Edward. Listen, Jane, Mr. Rochester said. My father wanted me to marry Bertha Mason. Her family was very rich. I married her. My father was happy, but I was not happy. Bertha was mad, and she was a bad woman. Nobody told me about her. She was married to me, but she met other men. She was drunk every day. She tried to kill me many times. After 4 years, I brought Bertha here to Thornfield Hall, Mr. Rochester said. Then I went away. Grace Poole took care of Bertha. I met other women. One of them was a French singer. She was Adele's mother. Adele is my daughter, Jane. But I did not love the French singer. I did not love anybody. I came home to Thornfield Hall. Then you came here and I loved you. I will always love you. Please stay with me, Jane.
Otra vez.
No, Edward, I said. I am going away. We will be unhappy, but we must not be together. Goodbye, Edward. Oh, Jane.
General quarters.
Jane, my love. Mr. Rochester said. Don't leave me. I kissed Mr. Rochester. God will help you, Edward.
Qué bien, qué
I
bien.
said. Quickly, I went into my room. I put some clothes into a bag. Later, I heard Mr. Rochester go into his room. Very quietly, we went downstairs. I opened the small door at the side of the house. I left Thornfield Hall, and I walked to the road. It was dark. Soon, a coach came along the road. I gave all my money to the driver of the coach. I got into the coach. Many hours later, the coach stopped. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. You must give me more money now, the driver said. I have no more money, I said. You have no more money? Then you must get out of the coach, the driver said. I got down onto the road. The coach moved away quickly, but I had left my bag in the coach. I looked around me. I was on a cold, empty wall. I was tired and hungry. I walked and walked. I had no money. I had no food. I walked until the evening came. At last, I lay down on the ground. I fell asleep immediately. Chapter 10. More House. The next morning, I woke late. I walked along the road.
Torpedoes, direct
It
front.
started to
Commander,
rain.
we've been detected.
Soon, my clothes were wet. I saw no one. I walked on the moor all day. In the evening, I was very tired again. I must sleep soon, I thought. Where shall I sleep? Then
Fall below the waterline. We're flooding quickly.
I walked
The ship is on
slowly
fire.
towards it. The rain was falling heavily, but I saw a house near the moor. I walked up to the house. I knocked on the door. I waited, but nobody opened the door.
Problem solved, sir.
I stood outside the house. It was very cold
Commander, we've been detected.
and very tired. I couldn't move. I'm going to die here, I said. I heard a young man's voice. The man was standing behind me. No, you will not die in your house, the man said. Then
All
I
briefs,
unlocked
taking
the
on
door
water
of the
quickly.
house. He took me into the house. He took me into a warm sitting room. Please sit down, he said. Two pretty young women came into the room.
Vamos, vamos,
Is
bebé,
this
vamos, bebé, vamos, bebé, vamos, bebé, vamos, bebé.
Diana? The young man said. Give her some dry clothes, Mary. Then he spoke to me again. My name is St. Rivers, he said. These are my sisters, Diana and Mary. What is your name, young man? My name is Jane Elliot, I said. I closed my eyes. Jane is very tired, Mary said. She must go to bed now. I scratched her.
Listo. Pero algo agarró ahí.
Diana and Mary Rivers were governesses. They were staying at
Listo.
my house for a few days. Their brother was a
Vamos,
clergyman.
muchachos, vamos que se puede, vamos que se puede, vamos que se puede.
Kind to me. Soon we were good friends.
Perdimos los dos. Ay, puta.
One day,
No, este ya tenía mucha
Susan
vida
asked
él.
me about my life.
Perdimos o ganamos, no sé. Bueno, ganamos
I
por lo
was a
menos.
governess too,
6
I
torpedos
told
en un
him.
solo golpe. Bueno,
And I told him about the local
está bueno este
school.
bichito.
But I did not tell him about Thornfield Hall. I did not tell him about Mr. Rochester.
Para no estar equipado ni nada.
St. John, I said, will you help me? I have a plan, St. John said. A few miles from here, there is a village. Many of
Ninguno
the
está
girls in
equipado,
the village
ninguno.
cannot read or write.
Reparación.
For a girls' school in the village.
Todo este
I
dinero.
must find a teacher for these girls.
Nada, todo este dinero, mucho dinero, mucho, no hay dinero
I'll
ahorita.
teach them, St. John,
Lo juego
I
así.
said. Good, he
Está muy
said.
bueno.
There will be a small house next to the school. You will live there. 3 days later, a
Y aquí,
letter
aquí
arrived
tengo
for
algo
St.
con este
John.
campamento.
Diana, Mary,
8-10.
John is dead, he told his sisters. But
Y aquí es de 2 a 4. Tengo que comprar uno que sea 4 entonces. Igual bastante.
They read it.
¿Aquí qué hay?
Uncle
¿No?
John was our mother's brother,
Aquí
Diana told
de
me.
9 y 10.
He was
Hay que
very
buscarlo, 9 y
rich,
10.
but he has given all his
Ajá.
money to another niece.
Está jugando. Ahí está el avance. 13.400.
Soon, I went to live in the village.
El avance de este, no tengo nada de avance. Y este tampoco tengo nada de avance. Vamos con uno 4 pues.
I taught the girls,
Uno que sea 4 que piense usar ahorita.
but I was not happy.
O que ya
Every
tenga por lo
day I
menos.
thought
Si
about
busco el
Edward
uso de este,
Rochester.
por el cual me quiero ir.
Does he think about me? I asked myself. 4
5.000,
months
me ahorraría
One
este.
day, St. John Rivers came to my house.
11.000,
He was
nada.
reading a letter. He was worried.
Porque esto
What
es
is
este.
wrong? I
Comprar
asked.
esto un solo dolor, un solo golpe y me iría por
I
estos
want to
dos.
ask you 3
Y
questions,
jugarlo
Jane,
bastante para irme por estos dos.
he replied.
Si lo compro
Is
¿cuántos
your
son
name
qué?
Jane Elliot?
140.
Do you have another name? Do you know Jane
¿Por
Eyre?
este o por este?
I looked at him for a moment. I did not speak. I have
140 que en
to Jane
700.
Eyre, St. John said. Jane Eyre
Por uno
was
de
a
estos
pupil
dos.
at Lowood School, and she was a teacher there.
Tengo 4.
Then she was a governess at Thornfield
Tengo este que es
Hall,
4, que es Poner y que es
the
bueno.
home of Mr. Edward Rochester. How do you know this?
4
I
tengo.
asked. What do you know about Mr. Rochester?
Tengo este no lo tengo.
I
No
don't
tengo,
know.
sino hace 4. Este 4.
This letter is
4
from a
este.
lawyer. The lawyer tells a story about Mr. Rochester.
Este tengo
Mr.
este chiquitico.
Rochester had a mad wife, but he tried to marry
Tengo
Jane
este.
Eyre. She left Thornfield. Now this lawyer, Mr. Briggs, is trying to find her.
Me está pidiendo
I
hasta
will
2.
tell you the truth, St. John.
Tengo este 4, el Dan. Ay, qué bueno
My
también.
name is not Jane Elliot.
Tengo
My
4.
name is Jane Eyre. And I was a governess at Thornfield Hall. I know
Oracle,
Mr.
tengo 4.
Rochester. If Mr. Briggs write anything about Mr. Rochester?
¿Y de aquí cuáles tengo?
The letter is about you, Jane,
Europa.
St. John said. Your uncle, John Eyre, is dead. John Eyre has given you £20,000. You are rich, Jane.
¿Y aquí?
Why did Mr. Briggs write to you?
Sí, hay 4, varios 4.
My mother's name was Eyre, St. John said.
Hay que comprar más.
She was your father's sister.
Lo que sí me quiero comprar una vez el...
Then you, Diana and Mary,
Comprando barcos, ¿qué más?
I said. I thought carefully for a moment.
Vamos a comprar barquito. Sí, porque aquí me lo dice. Salgo de esto una vez. Me dice de 2 a 4. Tengo. No hay avance. Y aquí tampoco hay avance. 9 a 10. 9 a 10. Y pues estaba jugando aquí. Equipé en 5 tiempos. Debe ser. Ah, pero no me dicen en random y en batallas. En random y batallas. 9 y 10. De que me coma el dinero y intendente señor. Me gustaría lo tengo para comprarlo. 9 lo tengo. Y el alemán también lo tengo para comprarlo una vez para no pensarlo mucho. Ya que también tengo que es 9, ¿no? Estamos ubicando ahorita con 9. Para hacer esto de 250 y no gasta tanto. Porque aquí hay más de 250. Aquí no. Sí, 255. Pero esos 255 lo puedo utilizar en otra parte. Igual el Dennis. 15. Y ahí 6 lo tengo. Compré uno solo. Compré uno o comprar otro. Compré el submarino. Vamos a comprar otro. Pero el 13. Otro alemán 9 más. Qué vaina. Más torpedos, sí. Tiene torpedos. Y el japonés también tiene torpedos. Acá tiene torpedos el francés. También tiene torpedo. Y este es bueno, pero de los que peguen duro americano, pega el Wyoming. Duro, de 2 para adelante. Finish también pone también. De estos. También tengo el 4. Y este. También zarpó. Pero vámonos por aquí por este 4 y lo voy haciendo clac, 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 poco a poco. Y me sale hasta barato. Y voy entrenando al capitán de una vez poco a poco para llegar al Tailen. Me parece 4 pues. ¿Qué dice? Y vamos alimentando ese capitán ahí. ¿Qué dice? Y le hago compro de aquí para adelante. Necesito el Tailand. Aunque tengo el otro, pero bueno.
But he always burns candles in his room in the evenings, she said. Give the candles to me, I said. I'll take them to you. I opened the door of Mr. Rochester's room. His black and white dog was sitting by the fire. The dog jumped up and ran towards me. Who is there?
Y el alemán este.
Don't you know me?
Purche.
I asked. Your dog makes me.
Teniente, no gastarle el dinero de este. Este señor son 45. Este señor aquí son 15 que necesito para comprar el Denny. Y el Socket que lo quiero comprar que vale 45. 45, 50, 60. No puedo comprar más. Porque quiero comprar este y luego este. Por colección, más nada. Y el otro francés que dicen que es como un tanque, este. 110. 5, hay que te baja la alegría. Para comprar este, el Cherbourg. No. No, voy a gastar más que se lo gane. Señor.
Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes to port.
Ah, vaina.
Torpedoes astern. Torpedoes astern. Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes to port. The enemy team has taken the lead.
Vámonos de aquí. Vámonos para carajo. Vámonos. Tu chiste es duro, lo que sí sé que veo que es duro.
The ship is on fire.
Uy.
Critical engine damage. Main turret critically damaged.
Listo. Nos perdimos ya. Mala pues con esta, a ver. De una vez. Me comienza esta, me agarra esta. Perdiendo, compadre. Vamos por coño. Ah, me jodió.
Torpedoes, direct front. Problem solved, sir. Torpedoes to starboard. Torpedoes, direct front.
Adiós.
Torpedoes, astern.
Vamos por carajo ya. Ay, me están rodeando.
Critical engine damage.
Vámonos por coño ya. Ay, me dieron por todas partes. Ah, mucha gente, mucha gente. Mucha gente. Listo. Mucha gente ahí. No, habían como 4 o 5. Estaba solo. ¿Dónde está la gente aquí? Mi pendiente, ¿dónde está la gente? 1, 2, 3, 4 están por acá. ¿Qué avance han tomado? Ninguna. ¡Hala! 6, 2, 4, 6. Mira cómo termina. No la voy a abandonar. Mira cómo termina esta partida. Tengo frío, también frío fresco. Llega un calor insoportable. Una bolsa, más bien.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
¡Qué broma! Nada, atrás perdimos. Tremendo equipation. Ya perdió ya. Entonces esos dos pingos. El por menos vivió más que yo. ¿Chance de ganar? No creo. Dale, aunque se tumba ese, vale. ¿Quién queda? Todavía queda chance. ¿Qué es? 5 tiene chance.
The enemy is about to win.
hombre está ahí peleando ahí. Pero no, ya lo hizo. Estaba yo solo allá, también me fui solo, voy a ir a buscar el equipo. Hice buscar el equipo y no andar solo. Pero creo que estaba ayudando a uno.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
El poder duro, ¿no? El chico tiene duro, duro, duro. Ah, viste, se avanzó, ¿eh? Se avanzó. Para sacar esas misiones. Eso es todo lo que yo quería ver. Todo lo que yo quería ver. Ahora uno más con este bichito, pues. Y me voy. Y me voy construyendo esa rama. Cuatro, hasta llegar acá. Poco a poco. No hay apuro. Ujú. Listo. A ver si duermo un poquito más en 4, en este nivel. Que se me sale un chinazo.
Action stations.
Toda la gente. Dos, tres, cuatro.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon. Enemy destroyer sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship sighted.
Ah, vaina, cuidado con todo esto, carajo. Vamos para allá, pues.
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship sighted.
Listo.
We've sunk an enemy destroyer.
Vamos para acá.
Enemy destroyer sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
Kaiser es 4. Se ve cuatro, yo creo que lo tengo. Sí, le cojo esta pareja. Con los compañeros. ¡Ay! Cuidado. 1, 2. Ah, listo. Mejor, me agarró este carajo. ¡Ay! No vi el mapa. Dormidísimo, totalmente dormidísimo. Estaba concentrado en aquel. Y no vi que venía uno por acá. El tap del cáliz, el que le estaba dándole, que es más duro que el carajo. Y se me vino uno por acá. Qué pena. Totalmente concentrado en aquel y en el Kaiser. Y pues le di ese y nada, vale. Duro. Ah, ¿cómo queda esto? Poco a poco. Poco a poco. No voy aquí tampoco. Se tumbó uno. Poco a poco. Poco a poco. A comer. Nos vemos en un rato. Gracias por todo. Cuídense.
Galuchi-1810. Gracias por ver el canal. Hasta pronto y pásala bien.
No,
Thanks for watching the channel. See you soon and have a good time.
vale con este. Para ir por esta rama.